Hello everyone, it's Chad, and today's topic is going to be about a topic that is very, very controversial. This topic is probably the most highly disputed topic I've ever talked about with anybody, mainly because people get very protective of this particular subject, very defensive, in fact. So, it's basically the law of averages. What that means is, in a nutshell, what this law is, and I say law because it's known among successful people. They call it a law because it's so true. It's not a theory among successful people. But the rather unsuccessful people, and it doesn't mean financially successful, it means successful in any avenue of your life. The unsuccessful people don't even understand this law. If there was one thing that I can provide value to in your life, it could be any dimension, anything, any element of your life. If I could provide value, it'd be this rule. This is the one thing that I would tell you, among everything else. If there's one thing that changed my life more, this is it. This is the main thing. This is the big enchilada. This is what all the videos have led up to this point. Okay, so I'm giving it this grand introduction, but it's the law of averages. What this means is the top 5 people you spend the most time with, you become the average of those. Oh no, I don't. I'm the best of my group. I'm the worst of my group. No. At any given time, things change. It's a dynamic. You become the average of those people. For example, let's say the top 5 are, $300,000 a year earners. You'll probably be right in that range. You'll probably be somewhere in that range of $300,000 to $400,000. Let's say the top one is $500,000 and the bottom one is $100,000. You'll probably be $250,000. And that's not just with income. That's with everything. Attitude, happiness, that kind of thing. That's the thing of it. It's universal. It comes across the whole spectrum. That's the law of averages. You will average out. Every 90 days, your immediate network, your top 5 is going to change. The key is not necessarily to be judgmental. The key is to be conscious of who you're spending time with. It doesn't mean you have to hate them. It doesn't mean you have to dislike them. It just means, do you want to adopt those qualities or not? So, Entjs, naturally, understand this law. It's like we are extroverts, but we're not the extroverts that are typically pictured in books. Like the people who have a million friends and love to have parties. We're not that kind of extrovert. We're extroverts. We get our energy from other people and being around other people, but we're very selective in those people who we're around. We find if you fall within our paradigm of what we consider competent, then we'll allow you in. If not, then we'll say it's nice knowing you, gotta go. And that's how we are. Now, this is where it gets really frustrating for a lot of people, because they're like, well, that's not true. I want you to just think about it for a second. Just really think about it. Don't lie to yourself. Don't try to justify it. Don't be emotional about it, because you'll definitely not get to the right conclusion if you're emotional about it. But just think of the top 5 people, and you will probably be in nearly the same income range, nearly the same thought process, thought patterns. That's why you're all relating together. That's why you spend so much time with them, because you have the same thought process. There's a technique I call it's like the third eye. And what that is basically, I like to use this technique. It's being objective about what situation you're in. When I'm around the wrong people, I sometimes like fun people, and they maybe have a limited mindset, but sometimes they're enjoyable. But I can still feel it. I can still feel my brain cells being sucked from my skull, and I can still feel a lack of productivity. I don't feel charged up. When I'm put around the right people, I feel energized, I feel ready to go, I feel launched, I feel focused, I feel ready to go. So I get very selective of who I spend time with. It doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean you have to hate these people. You don't have to dislike these people. You don't even have to, there's three things. There's called your associations. Also, people call this the law of associations. That's why I'm going to say associations. There's associations, there's your limited associations, and there's your disassociations. Your associations are the people you spend time with. Your limited associations are people you may like, and they're not toxic to you, but they do kind of take you to a place you don't want to be, whether that's emotionally, whether that's, I don't know, just think about it, wherever you don't want to be, okay? That's your limited associations. You may spend an hour a week with them. You may talk on the phone with them once a week, once a month, whatever. That's a limited association. You haven't cut them from your life. A disassociation is someone you have to remove from your life. They're toxic to you. I've had a fair share of those in my life. I have a lot of limited associations. I don't consider limited associations friends. Personally, I don't consider them friends. I consider them acquaintances. They're people I can't count on. They're people I feel that they won't. If I had an issue, if I had a problem in my life, I know how well I can handle the problem. I want my associations to be just as much of a problem solver as I do, or they can bring something to the table that can help me out. If I'm in a bind, I want to be able to have a friend that I can call, and they would bail me out. They would somehow help me out, and they would be a problem solver just like I am. Maybe not in the same Entj type way, but they can contribute something. Just like I want to be able to contribute value to you by making videos like this. Anyway, it can be emotionally. An association can, like, I'm an Entj. I struggle with the emotional side of my life, even identifying with emotions, even understanding my own emotions. I struggle with it. I don't know how I feel at any given time. I don't really know. And so an association can be an emotional association. They can bring my emotional intelligence, emotional value, emotional equity. They can bring it up. And the same thing. I want to be able to contribute to my associations, people that I'm in their association circle. So this is why ENTJs are naturally dicks, because you don't fit into that circle. If you have experienced a dickish ENTJ, it's probably because they haven't deemed you worthy of being in their circle. ENTJs do this unconsciously. We don't want people messing with our state of mind. We don't want people standing in the way of our goals, and if you mess with our head and suck my brain cells out, I'm seriously going to get irritated with you. And that's not what I want. When I feel like my brain is draining or it's like osmosis of my brain, like, and someone's just sucking it down. Now, here's the key. The top person, you should always strive to be the bottom person in your top 5. That way you're elevating. You want to be the bottom. So the other top 5 people should be, whatever you're trying to improve at any given time, they should be people that you an area that you're weak, so you're learning. It's like being a constant student. You graduate a certain class, and after a while, the people become, and it could be top 5, it could be top 10, it could be the 5 or 10 people. I have a hard time understanding the people who have like 1.5 million friends. I don't know the closeness of those relationships, so I can't really say anything about that. I'd imagine you'd average out for the most part. But I've always been a man of very limited friendships. I feel friendships are very close, they're very personal, and they take a lot of time. They don't take a lot of work, they take a lot of time. You gotta build those relationships, you gotta build trust. So I don't think I have the time to have 1.5 million friends, but I'd love someone to contribute some value and tell me if they do have those friends and they really feel like that. I'd love to hear how they've done it, how they've successfully managed those relationships, how they remember everyone's birthdays, how they remember things that are important to people. That's a thing I would like to know. However, what I can say is that when you average those things out, what you want to do is, it doesn't mean that once that 90 days is over, you just get rid of them and you find the next people. You're not using people. What you're doing is you're contributing to each other. It's like a mastermind group. If anybody hasn't read it, you need to read the book called Think and Grow Rich. It talks a lot about associations, creating a mastermind group. Here's a big version, I think. It's the mastermind volume of Think and Grow Rich. And this book has, actually this is the workbook. So there's a lot of little sheets you can fill out inside this book. I have the smaller version of this book. I've read it many times. I never really did the workbook side of this, but if you're that kind of person, then you could definitely use that. It's called the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Volume. The Mastermind Volume, yeah. And so that is a book that that really talks about that a lot. It's one of the most popular business books, especially in the industry of network marketing, because it talks about subconscious mindset, and which is one of my favorite topics is subconscious programming. I think communication is like the channel in which we choose to speak our subconscious mind. And so what language we use is a reflection of what's going on deep down inside. And so like sales, all it is transferring of one subconscious feeling or belief to someone else. That's all it is. It doesn't mean it involves cash. It doesn't mean anything like that. So I think that's a big thing that we need to get over, is not being so emotional about this, in the sense of, I don't want to cut this person out of my life. Don't. Just get busy. Replace your top 5. Find people who are lifting you. It's easier to go down than it is to go up. It's like if you think of chemistry, you have a valence shell. If you're a chemistry major, please don't get caught up in the details. I'm probably going to be wrong, or if you know chemistry really well, but you have a valence shell, like an outer layer of this atom, right? Well, the energy it takes to move in or decrease or lose its last layer or ring or whatever they're called. I haven't studied chemistry in a long time, so forgive my lack of chemistry knowledge, but the point is, it doesn't take much energy to move down a level. But how much energy does it take to move up a level, to expand? It takes quite a bit. And that's the idea. It takes a lot more energy to grow than it takes to decay. Just like it takes a lot more work to get fit than it takes to get fat. It takes work, and that's what your emotional state is. It's work. That's why I think that we need to really be conscious of this, because people will decay you. Imagine if you're exposed to drama over and over and over and over and over again. After a while, you almost become desensitized to it, or you could, unless you're a very strong person. You'll start becoming desensitized to it. But at the same time, the strong people are associating with people who lift them up, people who they feel are in the same state of being as they are. So it's a big thing. It really does exist. So it's like why we seek out new relationships, but we don't know what we're really looking for. So it sounds kind of crazy, but if you're in a romantic relationship with somebody, an intimate relationship, make sure they belong in your top 5. Not because you love them, but do they decay you? Or do they grow you? Do they challenge you? And not in a challenging, confrontational, I'm going to put my foot down way, but do they challenge you, make you want to be better than you were yesterday? Do they make you want to grow? And do you do the same for them? It's the question that you have to think of, both sides. It's not about just receiving, it's about giving too. Do you do the same for them, or are you what's decaying them? You got to think about these things consciously, because it's imperative. It's for your growth, it's for their growth. Don't be the decayer. There's going to be a group of people that you could put me around, and I feel like I'd slow them down. I wouldn't want to do that. It would A, make me feel bad. I'm slowing these people down. B, my competitive edge will come out, and I'm going to get irritated and frustrated, not with them, but with myself. And that's not a good state of being either. So you want to be at the bottom of that top 5, but you don't want to be so far down that you're like so far away from them. Let me give you an example. This is not across the board true, but it's quite frequent. You take someone who earns an income of $10,000 a year. Okay, that's poverty. Then you take someone who earns $50 million a year. How much time do you really think these two people are going to be able to spend together? Like hours, weeks, months, years? It's going to be difficult. Not because one's snooty and one is humble. Not because it's just the state of mind is different. They have a different experience. And that's what it's about, because it doesn't mean all rich people are snooty and they look down on the poverty person, or the poverty person looks down on the rich person and says you don't see the meaning of life. It's not any like that. It's like the where you're at. It's going to be difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And the challenge is maturity. How strong are you? How well can you lift other people up without decaying? But don't try to make yourself a hero or heroine. Just help when you can, give and give and give and give. But don't sacrifice yourself. That's what it's about. I'll tell you a period in my life where I was real depressed. And there was a girl I think I was dating at the time. Not in like a serious romantic relationship, but just casually dating. And I was the decayer in the relationship, in the situation. I was not at a good state of mind. I was in a position where I was dragging her down. And she called me out on it. She goes, you're toxic to my life. And then I was like, wow. I was kind of pissed off about it at the time that someone would be so blunt and just say that I was a decayer. But the truth is, looking back with hindsight, I was. And the key is really understanding where you're at and then doing that person a service. It doesn't mean just disassociate. Don't latch on. Don't try to keep someone in their association if they're trying to go. People are going to go on their journeys and they're going to do what they need to do to succeed. But it's important that you understand that. It's important that you understand that you do have an impact on everyone around you. And if you're the positive person, if you're the top person, the chances are you're either going to flatline, as in you're going to stay where you're at, which is fine, or you're going to decay. You're not really going to grow much because no one's challenging you. No one's pushing you. There's no new venture to explore. And it doesn't mean dump all of them. It may mean just drop one to limited or just move one to a top 10 instead of a top 5. It doesn't mean dump them. Only disassociate if they're toxic. Do you feel like they ruin your mindset? Do they ruin your mood? Then people ask me, what about family? Well, this is a very controversial topic because I would say that 90% of people are going to disagree with me. You need to take care of your family. That part people will agree. You need to take care of them. Not because you owe them. Okay, here's the difference where this is where people disagree. You don't owe your family. Okay, you don't. Unless you have worked out something where you do owe them. But you don't owe them simply because they're your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister. You don't owe that because there's no entitlement. It's not like, I'm your mom, so you owe me. I'm your dad, so you owe me. That's that entitlement video. Look at the video before this one. You don't owe them anything for simply being your parent. Being your biological mother or father. I'm sorry. Like, that's not the reality of it. They're people like anybody else, but you do need to take care of them like anybody. Are you going to let people starve? No. Take care of your family to what is humane. Past that, it's on an individual basis. It's on a basis where you could either be around your family because they're positive and they uplift you, or you can put them in limited associations, or you can even disassociate. You don't owe them. And I'm sorry, you don't. It doesn't mean disrespect them. It doesn't mean insult them. Just let them live their merry way of life, and you live yours. And that is the reality of it, in my opinion. And it's the same thing with anybody. You don't owe them. So I want you to understand that and take that home in this video, is to really get to the bottom of how your associations are impacting you. And don't try to justify. Don't rationalize behavior. She's in this hard time right now, or he's doing this right now, or he's doing the. Don't rationalize. Just go toxic, not toxic. That's it. Don't rationalize. Don't explain why. Don't go but. Okay, just right. I feel decayed by this person at this time, or make a mental note. It's only 5 people. You should be able to do it in your head. But if you have to write it down, write it down. It can be insulting to people, but you can disassociate pretty easily. And it doesn't mean, if you need to disassociate from someone, don't tell them to go screw off and they're a horrible person and blah, 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 blah. Just get busy. That's the easiest way. Get busy. Start spending time with other people. Start doing other things that are that are going to grow you, and then all of a sudden you're not going to have time for that. And that's the idea, is to do things that are going to take your time, so you don't have time to give your people that you need to get out of your associations. If you get too busy, you're not even going to talk to them. It'll be years before you communicate with them again, you know. And hopefully by the time they touch base or you touch base, that they've grown. That's the key, is to do that. And sometimes they're going to take offense. Sometimes they're going to get upset, and you have to be able to embrace that. I don't take offense very often. I get irritated quite a bit, but I think it's important that we understand that people need to grow and they don't want to decay. Everybody wants to get better, I think. I hope. Don't you want to get better than you were yesterday? Don't you want to be a better person? You'll never be a good person, in my belief. My philosophy is that nobody is a good person. Nobody. That's my philosophy. It doesn't mean it's a negative view. It means that the good that we do is from the Spirit. It has nothing to do with us. It's the Spirit. It's the Holy Spirit in us. But that's my philosophy. So we can't force ourselves to do good. The Holy Spirit's going to do the good. But what you can choose to do is to strive on a path to be good. Because in this philosophy, it's about the walk. It's not about the destination. So anyway, just make a conscious choice. Pick the right associations. And at that time, you're going to be able to grow. You're going to be able to find things new. At the point in my life when I was struggling the most, and I had the most challenging moment, I looked at my associations and I realized what was going on. I had one guy that was really, and I considered him one of my best friends, and that was not good. Another guy that was on drugs. Another guy that, and I wondered why I was having like severe levels of stress and anxiety. I wondered why. I had no understanding of why I was so depressed and why I was so miserable, and why I felt, and why the problems that they dealt with started somehow seeping into my life, you know. And those are things I wanted to not have. So I got busy, and they called and, you know, hey, let's hang out this weekend. I said, you know what, I got this work to do, but we can schedule next weekend or whatever. We can do the next weekend. We can do the next weekend. We can do the next weekend. I just kept pushing things off because I had things to do. You know what? Sorry, I can't do this weekend either. I got a, event. I got to do this. I got to work on this business. I got to do this. Maybe next weekend. And I just got busier and busier. And after a while, they kind of fell off. People who are going to cling on to you and get pissed because you don't spend time with them, that's not a healthy person. It's not. So that's another thing you got to keep in mind. It's not a healthy person that's going to want to cling on to you like that. So anyway, I could make this an hour long. I could make it 4 hours long. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to torture you with these weird videos, but I will elaborate on this topic should anybody have questions. I don't mind talking about this in particular. I don't even mind if you want to do a one-on-one Skype video about this particular topic, because I'm pretty convinced. If you want to do a video and interview me, sure, but changing my views is probably not going to happen. So if you have an opposing view, I'm not really interested in debate. I don't have time for Skype debates. But if you're interested in just talking and kind of exploring the idea, great. I just don't have the energy for debate right now. So anyway, we'll talk to you later. Hope you all have a good rest of the day.